Please join us in our opening litany on the front of your bulletin. And this is the judgment, that the light has come into the world, and we have loved darkness rather than light. God is light, in whom there is no darkness at all. For God sent the Son into the world not to condemn the world, but that the world might be saved through him and his teachings. But the world rejected this light and became dark and chaotic. Friends, let us worship in spirit and truth.
What wondrous love is this, oh my soul, oh my soul. What wondrous love is this, oh my soul. What wondrous love is this that caused the Lord of bliss to bear the dreadful curse for my soul, to bear the dreadful curse for my soul. When I was sinking down, when I was sinking down, when I was sinking down beneath God's righteous frown, Christ laid aside his crown for my soul, Christ laid aside his crown for my soul. To God and to the Lamb I will sing, To God and to the Lamb I will sing. To God and to the Lamb, who is the great I am, while millions join the theme, I will sing, while millions join the theme, I will sing. And when from death I'm free, I'll sing on, And when from death I'm free, I'll sing on. And when from death I'm free, I'll sing and joyful be, and through eternity I'll sing on, and through eternity I'll sing on.
It was 2 days before the Passover and feast of unleavened bread. The religious leaders who collaborated with the Roman occupation were conspiring against Jesus. They had gathered in the palace of Caiaphas, the high priest. This man had received the high priesthood at the hand of Valerius Gratus, the former Roman governor, and now retained the office under Pontius Pilate. They all were planning to arrest and destroy Jesus quietly so as to avoid a popular revolt among the Jews.
At this time, Jesus was lodging at Bethany in the house of Simon the leper. While he was there, a woman approached and anointed him from an alabaster jar of pure nard. When his disciples saw the act, they were outraged. "Why this waste?" they demanded. "Such costly ointment might have been sold for a large sum and given to the poor." Jesus responded, "Why do you bother the woman? The poor are always with you. Indeed, I tell you that wherever the gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will be told in her memory."
Then one of the 12, named Judas, son of Simon the Iscariot, went to the chief priests and asked, "What will you give me if I deliver Jesus to you for the governor?" When they heard the offer, they were glad and promised Judas 30 pieces of silver. From that hour, he sought an opportunity to betray Jesus.
At the beginning of the feast, when the Passover lamb was sacrificed, the disciples of Jesus approached him and asked, "Where do you wish us to prepare the Paschal meal?" Jesus took 2 of his disciples and instructed them, "Go into the city, and you will see there a man carrying a water jar. He will show you a suitable place." The 2 did as Jesus commanded. They entered the city where they found the man with the water jar, who brought them to a large upper room.
When evening had come, Jesus arrived with the 12. While they were eating, he said, "I tell you truly that one of you is going to betray me." The disciples were stunned with grief and began to protest, one after the other, "Surely not I." Jesus replied, "The betrayer is one of you, dipping his hand in the dish with me. The Son of Man is fulfilling Scripture, but woe to the man through whom the Son of Man is betrayed." Then Judas slipped out for the night.
As they were eating, Jesus took bread. After reciting the blessing, he broke it and gave it to his disciples, as he said, "Take, eat, this is my body." Then taking the cup with the traditional blessing, he gave it to his disciples, as he said, "This is my blood of the covenant, which is being shed for many. I tell you in truth that I shall not again drink from the fruit of the vine until the day when I drink it fresh in my Father's kingdom." Then, having sung a hymn, they left the city for the Mount of Olives.
As they walked, Jesus said to his disciples, "You will all desert me this very night. So it is written in the prophet Zechariah, 'Strike the shepherd, and the sheep will be scattered.'" Then Peter protested, "Though all desert, I will remain by you." Jesus replied, "I tell you truly that in this very night, before the cock crows twice, you shall deny me 3 times. Still, Peter maintained, "Even though I must die with you, I will never deny you." And so declared all the disciples.
Jesus halted at an olive grove called Gethsemane. Then going apart with Peter, James, and John, he left them on watch and continued a little farther alone. There he fell on his face in anguished prayer. Soon he returned to the three on watch and found them sleeping. Rousing them, he asked Peter, "Could you not watch with me for just 1 hour? Watch and pray that you are not put to the test, for the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." Again, Jesus went apart in troubled prayer, and again he returned to find the disciples sleeping, for their eyes were heavy. A third time Jesus withdrew to pray, and a third time he found the disciples sleeping. Then Jesus said, "Sleep on and finish your rest. Now is the time for the Son of Man to be delivered into the hands of sinners. Here comes my betrayer."
Jesus had not finished speaking before Judas, one of his own disciples, arrived with a group of Roman soldiers and other armed men from the temple. Now the betrayer had arranged with the authorities for a sign, and he said, "The man whom I kiss is the one you want." In according with this arrangement, Judas went directly to Jesus and cried out, "Greetings, Master." Then he gave him a kiss. Jesus responded, "Judas, would you betray the Son of Man with a kiss?" Immediately, the soldiers laid hands on Jesus and held him fast. Then one of the disciples with Jesus drew his sword and cut off the ear from the slave of the high priest. But Jesus said to him, "Sheath your sword. All who take up the sword will perish by the sword. Do you not know that I can call upon my Father, and that he will respond at once with more than 12 legions of angels?" Then, turning to the mob, Jesus continued, "Have you come for me as against a rebel bandit with a sword and clubs? Why did you not seize me in the temple, where I sat teaching day by day? Were you so afraid of the Jewish people that you must come for me by stealth? Nevertheless, your actions are fulfilling the words of the prophets." Then all the disciples forsook him and fled.
Those who had seized Jesus brought him to Caiaphas, whom the Romans had made a high priest. Peter followed at a distance as far as the courtyard. There he sat with the attendants and warmed himself by the fire. The high priest had gathered his whole council, and they began to arrange the case against Jesus, which they would present to Pontius Pilate, the governor. The charge was that Jesus claimed to be king of the Jews, and they brought in many false witnesses, but to no avail. Finally, 2 came forward and testified. "We heard this man say, 'I will tear down this temple made with hands, and within 3 days will build another not made with hands.'" The testimony was evidence that Jesus claimed an authority over temple affairs which traditionally belonged only to the rulers of Israel. And in those days, Israel was ruled from Rome. Yet even these witnesses were unable to agree on their testimony. Finally, Caiaphas stood up and examined Jesus directly. "Have you no answer to these charges?" demanded the high priest. Jesus remained silent and answered nothing. Then the high priest put the question of kingship in terms of the royal titles, Anointed and Son of God. "Are you the Anointed One, the Son of the Blessed?" he probed. Jesus answered, "I am, and you shall see the Son of Man seated on the right hand of power and coming in the clouds of heaven." The high priest turned and said, "What need have we of witnesses? He has condemned himself." They all concurred that Jesus was indeed worthy of death. Then those holding Jesus began to spit on him. They covered his face and were striking him as they taunted him and said, "O Anointed One, prophesy who it is who is striking you."
Now Peter was warming himself in the courtyard when a small slave girl entered. She confronted Peter and said, "You also were with this Jesus the Nazarene." Peter quickly gave a denial. "I do not know what you're talking about," he replied, and went outside into the gateway. Meanwhile, the cock crowed. The slave girl followed Peter out and said to the bystanders, "This man is one of them." Again, Peter denied knowing Jesus. After a little while, the bystanders said directly to Peter, "Surely you are one of them, for you speak with a Galilean accent." Then Peter began to swear with an oath, "I do not know this person of whom you are speaking." But the cock interrupted him as it crowed for the second time. Immediately, Peter remembered how Jesus had said to him, "Before the cock crows twice, you will deny me 3 times." He went out and wept bitterly.
When morning arrived, all of the chief priests, along with the other Roman collaborators, bound Jesus and delivered him over to Pontius Pilate, the imperial Roman governor. When Judas saw what was happening, he knew that Jesus was doomed, and he repented. He returned the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and confessed, "I have sinned in betraying innocent blood." "What is that to us?" they responded. "That is your affair." Jesus threw down the 30 pieces of silver in the temple. Then he went out and hanged himself. Picking up the silver pieces, the chief priest said, "It is unlawful to put this silver into the treasury, for it is blood money." Whereupon they used the money to buy the potter's field for the burial of strangers. Therefore, that field is known to this day as the field of blood.
Jesus stood before the Roman governor as the accusers made their charge. "We found this man perverting our nation." They said he was forbidding us to pay taxes to the emperor and proclaiming himself anointed king. The governor asked, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus answered, "You say so." The chief priests were accusing him of many things. Therefore, Pilate again spoke to Jesus. "Have you no answer to give?" he asked. "Look at how many accusations they are making." Jesus astonished Pilate by remaining silent.
At that festival, the governor used to release a prisoner, and some were urging Pilate to do so at this time. Now there was a notable rebel in prison with those who had committed murder during the insurrection. His name was Jesus Barabbas. Therefore, the chief priests arranged a demonstration to demand Barabbas. Pilate asked them, "Whom do you want me to release for you, Jesus Barabbas or Jesus the Anointed One?" The demonstrators shouted, "Barabbas!" Pilate responded, "What shall I do then with Jesus the Anointed One?" The crowd shouted, "Crucify him!" Pilate continued, "Are you certain of his guilt?" The crowd took up the chant, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" Again, Pilate spoke, "Shall I crucify your king?" "We have no king but Caesar," cried the demonstrators. Then Pilate agreed to release Jesus Barabbas, but Jesus the Anointed One he handed over to soldiers for scourging and crucifixion.
The soldiers led Jesus within the governor's palace. There they assembled the whole battalion. They clothed Jesus in royal purple, They set a crown of thorns upon his head and shoved a reed between his fingers for a scepter. They began to mock him by kneeling before him and proclaiming, "Hail, King of the Jews!" They also spat upon him and smote him on the head with a stick. Then, after mocking him, they took away the purple, returned his own clothes, and brought him out to crucify him.
On the road, they met an African of Cyrene named Simon coming in from the countryside. Him they compelled to carry the cross. They brought Jesus to a place called Golgotha, which means skull. There they crucified him. They offered him wine mingled with myrrh, but he refused it. His garments they divided among themselves, casting lots for them. Over his head they inscribed the charge against him, the King of the Jews. Also there were 2 insurrectionists crucified with him, one to his right and one to his left. Those who passed by were shaking their heads in derision and saying, "So you would destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days. Save yourself. Come down from the cross." Likewise, the priestly collaborators mocked him as they said to one another, "He saved others, himself he cannot save. Let the Anointed One, the King of Israel, come down from the cross, that we may see and believe." Even the 2 crucified with him reviled him.
Now from midday there was darkness over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. After that hour, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani," words that mean, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Some of the bystanders said, "Look, he's calling out for Elijah." One of them put a sponge full of vinegar on a stick and laid it upon his lips. Others said, "Wait, let us see whether Elijah will come and take him down." Then Jesus, having uttered a loud cry, breathed his last breath. Suddenly, the curtain of the temple was torn in 2 from the top to bottom. The earth shook and the rocks were split. Even the tombs of the dead were opened. Now, when the centurion on watch and the others who were with him saw what was taking place, they were filled with awe and said, "This man truly was God's royal son."
The orphan clings to your hand, singing the song of how he was found. The widow rejoices, for her oppressors are silenced now. You sit at the table with the wounded and the poor. You laugh and could just be silent and leave us here to die. Still you sent your son for us. You are on our side. The runaway falls at your feet. You are what he has searched for. The rich man is broken when he stands beneath a sky full of stars. You sit at the table with the wounded and the poor. You laugh and share stories with the thief and the whore. When you could just be silent and leave us here to die. Still you sent your son for us. You are on our side. Still you sent your son for us. You are on our side.
Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows. Yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities. Upon him was the chastisement that made us whole, and with his stripes we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned every one to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. Like a lamb that is led to the slaughter, and like a sheep that before its shearers is dumb, so he opened not his mouth. By oppression and judgment he was taken away. And as for his generation, who considered that he was cut off out of the land of the living, stricken for the transgression of my people. And they made his grave with the wicked and with a rich man in his death, although he had done no violence, and there was no deceit on his mouth.